Homework Hotline, what is your emergency?
Welcome to the Homework Hotline.
Call us with your math, English, or science questions.
And we will work through them with you here on the air.
So we're here every Tuesday and Wednesday from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Call us at the number on the screen. It's 720-424-1666.
Yeah, and we have almost too many ways for you to watch. Our two Comcast channels are channel 22 and 88. You can watch on Prism TV, channel 8007. Streaming through livestream.com, click on Discover and search for DPS TV. And on Facebook, you can search for EG Homework. You can also see our past shows on YouTube at Denver DPS TV.
The Homework Hotline is sponsored by both of our schools. Becca and I teach at Emily Griffith High School, and Sam over here teaches at Contemporary Learning Academy.
So today the Vikings are coming.
Yeah, we're going to have Jennifer Moss Logan and some time travelers joining us on the show today.
Yeah, so we'll interview and play a game with them. Watch that in about a half an hour here.
And though we love your phone calls, we know many of you also love social media. So we have Jeff over here watching our social media board.
That's
Jeff,
right.
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you'll be doing on the show?
All right. Well, my name is Jeff, and I'm an intern here at DPS TV. And my role on the show is to kind of serve as the trivia master and also the social media board expert. So if you guys have questions, we love when you guys send in the questions over here, and then I will take the questions and relay them over to our smart people over here, known as the teachers, and they're going to answer the questions for you. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And I also, as I mentioned before, I'm the trivia master, so I have a trivia question that I am going to give you guys. And if you guys get it right, if you guys get it, send it in so we can get, and you'll get a prize. So it'll be really cool. So here's the question for today. What country has won 567 Nobel Prizes since 1901? That's right. What country has won 567 Nobel Prizes since 1901? That's the question. So if you have the answer, call in, get it to us any way you can, and you can win a prize.
All right, let's give you our other contact information. That way, if you have your homework questions and you like that social media a lot better than calling, you can ask them to us. So here it is. You can send your questions to us at Facebook or Twitter at EG Homework. You can text us your questions at 970-680-3771, or you can email us at homework@emilygriffith.edu. So all the different ways that you can ask us your homework questions. So that being said, let's go back to Jeff. Let's go get some of your questions answered. Jeff, what do we have?
All right, well, I'll tell you what we have. We got a bro question. And I don't mean bro like, hanging out with your dudes and slamming into you back or whatever. We're talking about a algebra question. You get it? Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. So right here we have a question. It says 5 minus 2x minus 4x plus 7 minus 9x. And it asks to simplify this equation. Please, bro. A little
very, very polite.
Yeah, very nice.
Sorry, I was trying to see what it said. Could you tell me one more time, Jeff?
Yes, I can. It's 5 minus 2x minus 4x plus 7 minus 9x.
Okay, so we need to simplify.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, this will be a nice short and sweet one. One of the things, so when we simplify, okay. So when we simplify, one of the things that we like to do is combine like terms. Now, let me back up and explain this just a little bit better. If I had, let's say I had 3, what do you use, Nathan? You use milkshakes and hamburgers?
I always use hamburgers and milkshakes.
I like that. Okay. So if I had 3 milkshakes and 2 hamburgers, what do I have? Well, I have 3 milkshakes and 2 hamburgers.
Right, that's the easiest way to say it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the shortest, simplest way.
So you don't mix your milkshakes and your hamburgers, right? If I had, let's say I also had, in addition to this, I had one other hamburger plus 3 milkshakes plus 2 hamburgers. Then I could simplify this. I could actually say this a simpler way. And what I mean by that is instead of saying I have 1 hamburger and 3 milkshakes and then 2 hamburgers, I can put these hamburgers together and say, well, actually, I have 3 hamburgers and 3 milkshakes. So what these are called, these hamburgers, these are called like terms, and 3 milkshakes. And so what you want to think of is you want to think of, when we're looking at algebraic expressions, if it has a variable and a power tagged to it, that's almost like its label, like milkshakes to hamburgers. Those are labels. And so the labels on our coefficients are variables, and powers, if maybe you have powers. So this is saying I have 2 x's, or in other words, actually negative 2 x's. And then I also have negative 4 x's. I would not put together these with 5 because 5, that's 5 units. It's just 5 units, just 5. So different types of things, just like milkshakes and hamburgers are different, x's and units are different as well, constants are different. So all 3 of these are my like terms. I've got negative 2x, negative 4x, and negative 9x. The other thing I've noticed that is a misconception, or maybe a point of confusion, is the negative sign. The question is, does it go to the 5, you know, what's there, or does it go to the x? And it always just goes with, it always is in front of whatever it goes with. So we're going to put together negative 2x, negative 4x, and negative 9x. So that's as simple as we're just going to add negative 2 plus negative 4 plus negative 9. Negative 2 plus negative 4 gives us negative 6. Negative 6 plus negative 9 is going to give us negative 15. So all together, I have negative 15 x's. And then my other like terms, 5 and 7, I can put those 2 together to give me 12. So this is as far as I can go. Another, I guess, misunderstanding is a lot of times I see students try to put these 2 together, negative 15 and 12. But again, these are my milkshakes and hamburgers. We don't want any hamburger milkshakes. That's gross. So,
Although it could be delicious. Who knows?
Ooh, they make.
I mean, I'm hearing you with like fries and Frosties.
Like, I like
I'm
hamburgers.
all about that, but I don't
like
know about
milkshakes.
hamburgers and milkshakes
Why not a
together.
hamburger milkshake?
But
Let's try new things.
so, well, all right. So when you put these together, we've got negative 15x and positive 12, and that's as far as we go. So simplified for you. Hopefully that helps. All right, let's go back to Jeff. Get more questions answered.
All right, more questions. Well, this one is kind of a sad question, actually. A title of Sad Science. And this is something that happens to me every time I watch a Disney movie. But why do your eyes produce tears when we cry?
Yeah,
Sam?
it's a great question.
Why
It's
does
not sad at all. It's super interesting science. Okay, so our eyes, I guess I'll start by saying our eyes don't only produce tears when we cry, right? So everybody has experiences where their eyes water, right? And so we do tend to think of like the emotional response tears. We tend to call those like, that's crying. The other kind of tears, like tearing up just from like irritation or something, the technical term for that would be lacrimation. So there are 3 kinds of tears that exist. Scientists sort of divide tears into 3 different categories. So you can have what are called, or lacrimation, I should say. You can have what's called basal lacrimation or basal tears. Basal tears are just sort of the basic moisture that the tear glands, and actually let me show you really quickly, if we could jump to my screen. This is sort of a diagram showing the lacrimal gland. Up here, that's this is the gland that your tears come from. These are sort of pipes leading down to what are referred to as your tear ducts. Some of the tears produced by your eye are actually drained through these ducts down here below the eye. But basal tears are going to exist so that you can regularly keep your eye moist. And the moisture on your eye does several things. It helps to keep particulate matter out. It provides sort of a protective film layer, sort of a mucousy fatty layer that protects the surface of your eye from different irritants. There are actually chemicals secreted in your basal tears that can kill bacteria. And so your immune system actually works through your basal tears. So again, basal tears, that's just the basic moisture. Like right now as I'm blinking my eyes and my eyes are getting a little bit moist, those are just basal tears. So then we also have tears that are called reflex tears. So I would imagine almost everybody has experienced reflex tears. Reflex tears are tears that come because of some kind of like acute irritation that's affecting your eyes. So a really common example is chopping onions. When we chop onions, sulfur compound gases that are released from the chopping of the onion can irritate your eye. And in response to that, your eye is going to produce reflex tears. And, again, we tend to think of tears sort of as, it's just water pouring out of your lacrimal gland. And I guess it sort of intuitively makes sense that that water might act as a protective layer. But something that we probably don't think about all the time is that these tears literally contain chemicals that act as medicine. So in the case of reflex tears, you've got chemicals inside of reflex tears that are going to help to sort of remove and dilute those irritants, and that's exactly why you tear up in those situations. Other examples of situations that might cause you to reflex lacrimate would be things like if you got dirt or dust in your eye, or other kinds of like noxious gases that might be bothersome to you. So then that brings us to the last kind of tears, the kind that the question was asking about. When we talk about tears that come from sort of an emotional state, we refer to those as psychic tears. And the first two examples, basal tears and reflex tears, it's pretty easy to see why we need those, right? Like we have these eyeballs that are so useful, they allow us to see, and part of allowing us to see is that they're a little bit fragile, and so we need this sort of protective layer on the outside of them. But that sort of begs the question, like, what is the point of crying? And I wonder how many people have sort of had that thought maybe in the midst of being in an emotional state and really crying a lot and thinking to themselves, why do I even, like, why is part of this process a bunch of water pouring out of my eyes? But in fact, for the same reasons that we lacrimate in those other situations, we lacrimate when we have an emotional response. And the reason here is that, again, the tears, the lacrimal gland, again, that's the little blob over the eye. And something else that's kind of interesting is we don't often think that tears come from above the eye. It's, at least when I cry or when I tear up, I tend to think that it's coming almost from the inside, but the gland here toward the inner eye is something that drains the eyes. But again, the tears that come from psychic tears, from an emotional response tears, those contain several chemicals that can actually help to calm you down. And in fact, one of the chemicals that's contained in psychic tears is actually a painkiller. And so it's something that will sort of ease your emotional state, but also your physical state a little bit. And so crying is this physical response to something that's happened. And there is literally medicine in our tears that's supposed to help us with those kinds of situations. Now, of course, the types of emotional situations that humans go through are many and complex, and tears aren't always the solution. But how many times have you heard that somebody felt a lot better after having a good cry? And it's not just because they let a bunch of water out of their eyes, it's because they literally released medicine from inside their own body by crying. So sad science, but totally interesting science.
That is so cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, isn't that
That
fascinating?
makes so much sense why it feels good to cry then.
Yeah, right? I mean, it is, again, one of those things that we don't think about so often, but what an
Yeah.
amazingly neat thing that our body does for us.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, let's get more questions answered.
All right, cool. Let's go back here. We got a math question now, and this is kind of this is really hard, I think. It says find m so that the lines with the equations negative 2x plus my equals 5 and 4y plus x equals negative 9 are perpendicular.
All right.
So those are the two lines.
I can take that one. Actually,
Right.
I'm going to pull up just a quick graph so we can talk about what perpendicular means. So I'm just going to pull up some graph paper. I'll just do 5 by 5. So when we talk about perpendicular lines, we're talking about lines that create a 90-degree angle. And what you'll kind of see is they look very specific. 1 second while I pull up a quick graph. Because this is really the first thing we're going to need to figure out what the value of m needs to be. Oh, not get it. There it is. It's very small. I can make this bigger. All right, when we talk about perpendicular lines, we're really talking about two lines that intersect. They make a 90-degree angle. They actually make 4 90-degree angles. So I'm going to give you a quick example of what that would look like. Maybe something like this. Here's my one line. Let me draw these at the end, because it's one of my pet peeves, trying to get students to draw the arrows at the end. So I should do it too. And then another one would look like, let's say, kind of like this. So these are perpendicular because they form a 90-degree angle right here and really everywhere. So what you would notice is, if I were to look at this, is that these slopes kind of look opposite. And I'm going to need that, really. I haven't written that down yet. So, sorry, Jeff, could you pull that back up?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I can.
It's kind of sidetracked by trying to get this graph up. So we have these two lines, negative 2x plus
my
equals
5.
And we have another line that says 4y plus x equals negative 9.
Yep, that's right.
Now, I'm not going to go through calculating slope on these, but if you were to calculate, this isn't going to be totally accurate, but you're basically going to have a slope of this line that's going down. It's going to be negative, right, because the line is decreasing or kind of going down from left to right. I could say that this slope is negative 1. And then if you notice that the other line is going the opposite direction. So m equals positive 1. We're going to kind of see, this maybe wasn't the best example, but we have negative reciprocals. So meaning if I rewrote this as 1 over 1 and this as negative 1 over 1, oops, it's a 7. What we're saying is I need to flip them over, and I need to change the sign from negative to positive or positive to negative. So when we look at this, what I need to do is first figure out what is the slope of this line right here. Now, we talked about this a few times on the show, how you're going to convert a line that's written in standard form into slope-intercept form, which is, I'll write above here, y equals mx plus b. What we really need to do is just rewrite this in terms of y. So we need to get this y right here by itself. So we're just going to do some algebra here really quick, and we're going to do minus x equals, or sorry, minus x on both sides. And what I'm left with is 4y equals negative x minus 9. I still need to get this y by itself, so I can divide by 4, and divide everything by 4 over here. And you're going to get some you're going to get some fractions here. I'm going to rewrite this as negative 1/4 x minus 9/4. The good thing about this is all we care about really is the slope when we're looking for perpendicular. Because two lines can be perpendicular really anywhere on the graph as long as they have opposite slopes. So the only number that we actually care about in here, is I'll highlight in blue, is this negative 1/4. So we want our slope of the other line to be a negative reciprocal of that. So flipping it over. So in this case, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to think, okay, I got to get this in the same form, so let me isolate y. I'm going to add 2x on both sides, add 2x on both sides, and I'm going to get my equals 2x plus 5. Now, this looks a little confusing because now you've got this variable m in here, and what we're trying to do is figure out the value of m that's going to give us these perpendicular lines. So I'm going to keep on solving by dividing by m on everything now, and I'm going to leave this alone after I do this. So I have y equals 2 over m times x plus 5 over m. And again, the only thing I really care about is that my slopes are negative reciprocals. So just take a step back, because I think the example I gave with 1 and negative 1 isn't super clear. If I have a number negative 1 over 2, let me make a little more sense about the 1, like negative 2 over 3. If this is a slope, a negative reciprocal means we are going to take these two numbers and swap them out, right? Reciprocal means you're kind of flipping them over. So my reciprocal would be 3 over 2. And we say negative reciprocal, we're saying this negative becomes positive. So that's what we mean by negative reciprocals for the slopes. So here's what we need. We want this 2 over m to be a negative reciprocal of negative 1 over 4. Again, to figure out the negative reciprocal of this, we would say negative 1 over 4. We're going to flip these numbers around, and we're going to say 4 over 1, and we're going to make it positive instead of negative. So the slope that we actually want, and I don't want to use m here because that might get a little confusing. The slope that we actually want over here is just 4. So we want all of this right here to equal 4. So if we want it to equal 4, we can really just do 2 over m, set it equal to 4, and then we can solve this algebraically. Easiest thing to do is probably make that a fraction, cross multiply, and I get 4m equals 1 over 2, and then we can divide by 4.
1 times 2.
Oh, thanks. I was like, that looks kind of weird, what I had there.
All good.
Yeah, equals 1 times 2, or 2. It's like, this is going to be kind of a weird answer. Thanks for catching that.
No
So
problem.
divide by 4, and we're going to get m equals 1 over 2. This is what we want for our value of m. And you can always check that. I kind of ran out of space here. Maybe make a little bit. By saying that this, if I plug in 1 over 2 for m, it's going to become 4. So 2 divided by 1/2. Then we end up multiplying by the reciprocal. That looks confusing. Times 2 over 1 equals 4. So that is how you would find a perpendicular thinking about negative reciprocal. So hopefully that helped. I think it was kind of a lot of different concepts to go through.
It is.
at
Well,
once.
that's a tough question. There are a lot
Yeah.
of different concepts involved in that, for sure.
Yeah, you have to be very comfortable with what slope means, very comfortable with what a perpendicular line would look like in terms of slope.
That's the key fact, too, I think.
Right.
Is the opposite reciprocal.
Exactly.
Yep. Those linear equations.
Yeah, a lot you can do with them.
All right. Let's go back to Jeff and get some more of your questions answered.
All right, we got a special question here. This kind of throws a little curveball into it, but this is a question that I think Sam can answer. But what is the function of subject-verb agreement? So I guess we're kind of doing English a little bit.
Yeah.
But why is it useful? What is the function of subject-verb agreement, and why is it useful?
Definitely. And Jeff, I know you weren't here, but I'm now answering English questions
Oh,
in addition
okay.
to science.
All right, awesome.
So that's new, and yeah, I'm excited to answer this.
Cool.
This is kind of basic, but really, really key. So if we can jump to my screen, I'm just gonna explain this using some text. So subject-verb agreement. I guess I'm gonna explain what it is. The question, why is it useful? We'll get to that maybe in a minute. Maybe it's not useful, but this is what it is. So a subject, typically we think of a subject in a sentence as sort of the actor in the sentence. That's not a perfect way to define what a subject is. The subject is the one performing whatever the verb is, or doing whatever the verb is doing. And in many cases, maybe you wouldn't think of it as an actor, but an actor is an easy way to think of it. And then the verb is going to be whatever action that actor is doing. A verb can also be a state of being that the actor is in, and so there's a few verbs that hit a little better there that don't seem like actions. When we talk about agreement, we're talking about agreement in terms of one or two things. We either need to agree, or we both need to agree in terms of person, and we need to agree in terms of number. So I'll just really quickly go through some examples, varying the person and the number, so you can see what I mean, see how this works. And before I do that, I'll just mention this is something that all native speakers of English do naturally. Now, that's not to say there might be a few instances where native speakers get into a habit of doing something where maybe they're incorrectly agreeing subject with verbs. But for the most part, native speakers of any language do a great job of having verbs and subjects agree in their language. And that's sort of the reason why when you ask the question, is it useful? Well, is it useful for somebody? If you speak the language fluently and you are able to operate in the world that you need to operate in without being able to explain how your language works, I think that's perfectly fine on some level. But I mentioned yesterday that when I learned Spanish, I learned a lot about English grammar, and I would just say that understanding this stuff really enriches my experience using English and seeing English. So anyways, I'll just quickly go through a few examples right here. So one example of person would be first person, and I've got here first person singular and first person plural. So I'll just do some, again, quick examples. So first person is I. So I am the first person, singular at least, and so I might say like I, and I'm just going to keep this real, I'm just going to go with what we did yesterday. I eat pie. It was pie day yesterday, and we're just going to keep it easy because I think we need to meet some Vikings. I eat pie. I is the subject, first person. Eat is the verb. I eat totally agrees, and we'll see why that is in just a second. First person plural, we would have, so plural versus singular, you have one person versus multiple people. So to change first person from singular to plural, we change from the pronoun I to we. So we would say we eat pie. You'll notice that the form eat is the same for I and we. And in fact, in English, most of the time, the verb agrees with all forms of the subject. And we'll see one example where it doesn't here. So if I change to second person, singular, second person, as you might have guessed already, second person is you. And I don't even need to change the verb. You eat pie is totally correct grammar. You agrees with eat. Second person plural. Actually, second person plural in English is also just you, although sometimes we say like y'all. We don't really say y'all. Some people say it. I mean, excuse me. But you might say it, right? Because you're referring to not just you, one person, but to you or you guys, you could say. But in English, a lot of times, again, we can say you and have it mean you as in a group of people, or you as in a singular person. So I'll have it be y'all here, but y'all eat pie. You'll notice that the form eat stays exactly the same. We've still got agreement here. When we go into third person, singular is where we see the verb need to change to agree. So third person singular would be he or she. In this case, I guess I'll go with she. But if you say she eat pie, you just don't quite sound right, like something is wrong there. Folks who speak English fluently should know that what this should say is she eats pie. And so this is evidence in English that we do need to have subjects and verbs agree. Third person plural would be like they, right? So we could say, and again, the form eat fits with they. Now there are other verbs. There are some special verbs in the English language that change form in each person. So for example, the verb to be, right? We say I am, you are, he is, we are, y'all are, they are, right? So there are some verbs in English that change more frequently based on, in order to agree with the person and number of the subject. But I'll just throw out there, in other languages, like for example Spanish, which I speak, you need to change the verb to agree with each of the person and number changes that can occur, each of the different types of subjects that you can have. So anyways, hopefully that was a little bit of a quick view on what subject-verb agreement is. Again, is it useful? Yeah, it's useful if you want to make sure that you're writing correctly, if you want to make sure that you're using good grammar. But again, most native speakers of English do this naturally. So I don't know how useful it is for you.
Yeah, I think with this, maybe like you can get your point across being grammatically incorrect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the interesting thing about grammar is how much a little thing can just totally change the meaning of a sentence, right?
Sure.
Not so much with this. Like if you say she eat pie, then
But
it
think
just
about it,
sounds
if you
bad.
said she eat pie, you know, if it was like you're sending, I don't know why you would ever say this in like an email, but let's say you were sending an email to somebody and the communication mattered, right? Somebody might lose a little bit of respect for you
Right.
if they think that you can't
Yeah.
communicate in that kind of a way. And so, you know, grammar is like so many other things, like a key to getting toward where you want to be. And it's one of those, it's like,
Right.
it's an important tool to get what you want in this world.
Right. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about time to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we will be meeting with Jennifer Moss Logan and her time travelers.
Hi, welcome back. We're here with Jennifer Moss Logan from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So there's a new exhibit at the museum. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, so Vikings Beyond the Legend just opened at Denver Museum of Nature and Science on Friday, and it's an amazing exhibition. This exhibit really breaks open the myths that we all have about the stereotypical bearded barbarian and goes way beyond that. So in the exhibition, our visitors will not only meet the bearded barbarian, so to speak, but they'll also be able to explore what it was like themselves to go on a Viking, to lift up one of the heavy swords, to build the boat, for example. And many other aspects of Norse folks' life. They'll be able to dig into the belief systems and explore around Thor and Freya and the gods, and look at the myths and hear about the myths. And they'll also be able to imagine that they themselves have stepped back in time and that they are also Norse people. Try on the clothing, think about the clothing, the jewelry that they had. So it really is a full look at this incredible, multi-aspect culture.
You mentioned the myths. What are some of the common myths?
So, for example, so do you mean the myths that people have in their minds, or the myths of the Norse
common
gods?
misconceptions.
Oh, yes. So one of the things when we think about those horns that they had on their helmets. That is completely false.
Oh, they don't have horns on their helmets?
No horns. But when you...
I gotta be honest, I'm a little disappointed.
I swear, like, comics are drawn that way, and...
I always like the horns.
But the horns, when you leave them behind, what you're left with is the most incredible other stuff. You've got axes and shields and swords and helmets and helms, and there is so much going on there that you wouldn't miss the horns in the slightest, I promise you. Unless you were going to have a drink out of them. That's pretty fun. It's a nice big horn for drinking out of.
I was just curious, like, how much do those swords weigh? Because they're pretty beefy looking.
They are, and frankly, the Norse people who went to Viking were pretty beefy looking too, quite often. So they were really handling a lot of weapons. There's one in the exhibition that visitors can try picking up, and it is pretty heavy. It's heavy and long, but it's interesting. Not only did they use the swords, but they also used axes, because axes had a lot of different uses to them. So good for hooking shields and that kind of thing. So.
I have to ask, you said went to Viking.
Yes.
You didn't say the Vikings, you said went to Viking.
Oh, right. Like it's a location rather than...
Right. Well, it's kind of like going a hiking, but you go a Viking. So a Viking is what you do when you go out to raid or trade in far lands. And then you come home and you're a Norse person, or you're from the Svea, or you're Dane, or any number of different groups that were there at the time.
So it's more of like a role, or in a sense like an occupation, rather than like a person is a Viking.
It's kind of like an adventure.
Oh, okay.
So we actually have some of our Vikings here. One of the other things that visitors will do when they're in the exhibition is they'll have a chance to meet some folks who are the Norse people from the Viking time. And we have a couple of them who have joined us here today.
Time traveled.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Hello.
How are you?
So could you guys introduce yourselves?
Sure, I will introduce myself. I am Gudmund the Red. I am a trader along the Volga River.
Hi, Gudmund. I'm Becka.
Nice to
I
meet
teach
you,
math.
Becca.
So what do you primarily trade?
I will trade wood, also the honey, wool, and the ivory of the seal. And in return, I will get silver, I will get glass, I will get silk.
Sounds like a pretty good trade.
Okay, and what's your name? What's your name?
I'm Odinkarr Thorbjornson, Jarl of the Svea.
Okay, and what do you do?
I'm a Jarl.
What
you
is
don't know
that?
what that, yeah.
Of course,
Jarl.
Okay.
Earl, do you know this word?
No.
Duke. Do you
My
know that
lord.
word?
Oh, you're
yes,
Earl.
yes.
Okay,
That is what I
so
am.
you don't do anything, you just have money.
Oh, no, I do. I do many things. My life to be Jarl is to lead, to govern,
Okay.
to be judge in court, to control the army, to protect my lands and my people, to make decisions on the law. This is my life. That is what
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds like you have a lot of different responsibilities then.
Yes, I'm responsible for nearly 1,000 acres, several hundred people that live on those acres. And of course, not only that, but my allegiance is to other people, to traders such as Gudmund, but also other Jarls. If they have need and call upon me, I am obligated to them. And the same is true in reverse. If I have need of them, I will send them a message and they will had better come to me. That's what I say, had better come.
So I'm curious then, how do you get your position? Are you born into it, promoted into it, or?
I was born, my father was Jarl, and his father was Jarl, and his father, and so on and so forth. Now, I was not supposed to be Jarl because I was second born. My elder brother was to be Jarl. And he was, as my father was old, attempting to be Jarl, and it did not go well for him. Alas, he mysteriously died. And so I became Jarl.
Interesting.
instead. Yes.
Oh no.
He only drowned, right?
Yes, we found him drowned in the lake. It was most unfortunate.
Who found him? Did you find him?
Some serving girl.
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't even there at the time.
Oh, okay.
Convenient.
Okay.
That is.
So what is your village like? What is it like where you're from?
On my land?
Yeah.
Well, and Gudmund, this is similar, although he spends many months away, but we live in the hall, Uluf's hall. It is a large building, I would
Like
say.
a long house.
But mine is larger than most.
Yes.
And so, I'd say 100 or so meters from one end to the other. Most people live in long houses that are around 35, 40 meters, I would say. And then that is surrounded by your fields. Fields you have for growing your barley or your wheat, but also fields you have for making hay, pasture for your animals.
Grazing your animals.
All these things. And you live near the water. I live by the Lake Maren, but some people live by rivers or the sea. You must be near the water.
Okay.
So is it Gudmund?
I am Gudmund. yes.
Okay. Can you tell me, since you travel a lot, like
Yes.
what was your greatest adventure that you've been on?
Oh, well, I will tell you. When I was a young man, 17 seasons, I went with my brother Rurik to the Rusk, the steppes. And we had been raiding there for some years, and they asked, would you please stop doing this and protect us instead? So they offered to make my brother Rurik the prince. And he said, oh, this sounds good. He will get all the riches, and we will just protect them from the Northmen. So we did this, but soon moss began to grow on my feet. And I said, no, I must Viking. So I took my boat down the Volga River, all the way to the Caspian Sea. Then we ported our way down through the fields of poppies. You have never seen such a beautiful thing as a field covered in poppies. And I walked in, my men came with me, and we came to a city called Samarkand. It is a great trading area. And we thought we would raid, but that did not work out well for us. We were pushed back, then we tried again, and we were pushed back. And so I said, there is a way to get this treasure. And I will start to trade with them. And I met a man very much like myself. His name was Bwakbaji. And we struck up a deal. And I started to trade with him. He gave me this ring right here. That is one of my prized possessions. He has a caravanserai where you can stay. And it was so different and so beautiful. I go back quite often.
This is strange to me, Gudmund, that you do this.
I know.
You say fields of poppies. I say I want no fields except for those where I grow my barley.
I understand, but
And
you
it is
you need to travel
You
some.
and one out of one, every 100 goes as you do.
Yes. Well, that was
So do
an
you get to
adventure.
go on adventures?
I can if I choose, but why would I need to leave?
That's true.
You have everything that you need.
You have everything.
Well, but it is more than having everything that I need. It is keeping everything that I need.
This
If
is
I
true.
leave my land and there is no one there to defend it, it will not be mine when I come back.
Of course.
I must have children so that they can take my place when I am gone. And you do not grow from one season to the next. You must store food for the hard times. You must tend to your livestock. You must be a figurehead for your people. If you are Jarl, you must work your land. If you are a farmer. The wide world has many wonderful things it can offer you,
Indeed.
but there is
Not
no
everyone
place.
gets to go Viking all the time.
There is no place like your
Oh.
home.
So when you go out Viking, am I
Yes.
saying that right?
A Viking, yeah.
What kind of weapons do you carry? I see you
Well,
have
I
an
carry
axe.
my axe. I am no longer a warrior. I have a great nephew. His name is Einar. He does the warring for me. He is Einar the shield breaker.
Yeah.
He breaks his own shield mostly, but that's another thing, But they will use sword. You usually carry your sword,
I carry a sword,
for
yes.
ornamental purposes now that you are no longer.
Now that I no longer fight, but I
Or-
carry my family sword. I
Cut
have
the
it not
barley,
here.
perhaps? To cut the barley,
we
perhaps?
No,
will
you use
use
scythe
scythe
for
for
that.
that.
Oh, okay.
And my sword I would not unsheath for anything except for battle. Because Unlike many swords that are forged for warriors, as Jarl, we have forged for our swords imbibed with magic. And so such a blade I would not on anything but my enemies.
But I will have my axe with me for many reasons. Protection, also it is a tool, just like any other tool.
That was fun. What do you eat? What's your
Food.
favorite type of food?
Oh, what is your favorite type of food?
I like fine meat stew.
Huh?
Stews we will have often. It is my wife's favorite thing to
I
cook.
like the seafood.
Red fish.
Fish
That's
is
what I
good.
would have guessed, actually. I would have
like
guessed
fish.
that.
Yes.
Wow.
So speaking of fish,
Fish.
I heard you have an interesting game
Yes.
in your.
Yes, Jams Vikinger.
Yams,
Don't,
Viking.
would you like to play?
Who will play?
Who is to play?
Who is to
Sam
play?
is really
I'm gonna
waiting
play.
over
I'm
here.
gonna
play?
Oh, absolutely.
You
well,
play.
since we will go, we will match by size. I
Yes,
think
you always
should.
match by
yes,
size. So
yes.
you sit
I will
this one
take
out.
your helm.
Odinkarr,
I will
I'm
hold
gonna-
your
I'm
shield,
gonna get this here.
and I will root for what is the person who's fighting the Jarl. Put that on
Back
there.
on your.
Sam?
There you go.
You are
Sam?
Yeah.
I'm Sam.
You are
Sam Hiam.
Odinkarr. It's
All
good,
right.
it's
We
good to
will
meet
put
you.
this here. It is
Right.
to meet you as well. All right. So this here. Now we will not.
We're tethered here, so we gotta
that
be
is
careful.
all right. We shall not play it the way we normally do. Come around.
Okay.
This way. Come around this way. Normally in this you would have a dead fish, but we just filled it with a bit of flax.
No dead fish in
okay.
this one.
No,
I appreciate that.
You don't want to get hit with a dead
for
fish
just
if you're
for the smell.
unprepared.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate
for
it.
the smell as well. Now this is how the game goes. You must keep one hand on this at all times.
Okay.
Yeah?
On the cushion or just somewhere on the ship?
Anywhere on this, you must
enough.
keep one hand,
Okay.
and you must keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
Now don't impugn your honor, because
I-
victory without honor is actually defeat. You know this. You
Odinkarr, I would
must
never.
Keep your eyes
I would
closed.
never.
All right.
Do I get the whole length here?
So we must make sure that we are even, no matter what we do.
Okay.
Which
Well, how would you like
long?
it?
I
You're the
normally do.
expert.
I normally do about this long.
Okay.
All right.
Does that seem fair?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So
And then is there any kind of technique with the
no. So this is how it goes.
Okay.
Hands down.
Okay.
Eyes closed.
Eyes are closed.
I'll go first, and I'll ask you a question. You can open your eyes right now.
Okay.
And I'll ask you a question. And I'll say, "May I hit you with my fish?"
And I have
you
to
can
say-
say yes, no. You can say whatever you like.
Okay.
You can say you smell like a goat. You can say whatever you like.
Uh-huh.
But I must hit you with my fish. All right.
Okay, whatever I say.
Eyes closed. Yes. And then you shall go.
Okay.
And you will say, "Can I hit you with my fish?"
And I can duck
then
out of
I'll
the
say
way
something.
here
Yes,
and-
you try to duck, but you must. If you take your hand off, you are penalized. Now we.
And you
will
guys are
be
gonna
judges.
okay, judge us.
Yes,
Well,
Yes,
I'll
keep the
judge.
hand on.
All right.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Would you like to go first?
Yes, I will say first to for three.
First to
to
three.
hits.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
I'll go first. Eyes closed.
Okay.
All right. May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Oh! Come on, Sam, you can do this.
Okay.
1-0.
Oh, Odinkarr.
Ooh.
Odinkarr. May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Okay.
It is to me.
Oh.
May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Woohoo.
May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Okay.
May I hit you with my fish?
Oh, yes.
Oh, nice
Very
technique.
Matrix here.
Yeah,
nice
that's
technique.
exactly what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
In the
So it's
knee.
1-1.
It is 1-1.
Okay.
Come, Sam.
May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Oh, he ducked into it.
May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you enjoy
Fair
it?
enough, yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
sounds like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
having a wonderful time.
I think that is definitely the word.
May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Oh,
Did I strike his
no,
arm?
no, you
I don't know
did
if-
not.
With
No.
the string.
The
I
string
think.
doesn't count if the string
No.
hits me?
No, no.
All right, fair enough. May I hit you with my fish?
Yes. Oh!
It is 2-2.
Right on the hand.
2-2.
Now we shall decide.
boy.
Okay.
May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
Oh, nice! Nicely
Yeah.
done.
Okay. May I hit you with my fish?
Yes.
The underdog.
Oh,
Well
It is
done.
Odinkarr, I feel like you went. I feel like you
Yeah,
went
so
easy on me.
Embrace me, my friend.
That was
Well
wonderful.
done. Well
That's
done.
the best game of May I Hit You with My Fish. I've
That
ever
means
played.
you have strong warrior instincts there.
Oh, that's great news. Take me back in time with you, please.
Yes, indeed.
Awesome. That was
Oh.
so much fun, you guys. All right.
Thank you.
I really want
It's time to say goodbye.
I think it is
I heard?
actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
I will show you. We will make a greeting. You will grab my arm. I will grab
okay.
yours, and I will say, "May Odin's blessings be upon you."
Yes,
All right.
indeed.
And I will take my fox. I will say goodbye to you as well.
Okay.
Odin's blessings upon you.
Oh, thank you.
My
You
hands are
too.
not as free, but call upon me if you ever have need, my friend.
Thank you for being on the show.
And Tor's blessing on you. Tor's blessing on you, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Come see us. Come
We
see
will.
us.
Will do. All right, you guys. Well, if you're interested in going to see Gudmund and Odinkarr, you can go to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science and go see their Viking exhibit. Obviously, it's a whole lot of fun, so please check that out. We're going to take a break, and when we get back, we're going to answer some more of your questions. See you soon. Hi, welcome back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our time-traveling guest as much as we did. Sam,
It was really great. Except I'm still smarting from a few smacks by that fish.
did he get you in the face at the beginning?
There was, the first one was right
It
on
was
my
like-
head, although it was so soft. It really wasn't a big deal at all. But I did get it right to the face.
Well, good thing it wasn't actual dead fish in there.
Yeah, when I was like, yeah, definitely not because of the smell, but he made it sound like it would just really hurt to get hit with a dead fish.
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine that, right? Like that's
I guess it's like a lot
solid.
of bone and muscle. and
Bony, yeah.
just flap. Ouch.
Ooh. Well, you did a great job.
I appreciate it. I can't believe I won. I think he went easy on me, Odinkarr.
Probably.
I think he felt bad for me. But that's how it goes sometimes.
That's awesome. All right, well, let's give you our contact information just in case you're just joining us and you want to get some of your questions answered for homework. Phone numbers on top of your screen as always, and here's our social media information, Facebook and Twitter at EG Homework. Text us at 970-680-3771 or email us at homework@emilygriffith.edu. I also think we should give you our trivia question one more time just to give you a chance to answer that. Jeff, you want to
All
inform
right.
our audience?
Yes, I will. Here's our trivia question. Remember, send in your answers so you can win the prize. What country has won 567 Nobel Prizes since 1901? All right, that's our question, so get the answers in.
All right, so if you do have an answer or just even a guess, totally not penalized for guessing, give us a call by 5:30 today and you can win a prize. All right, in the meantime, let's go back to Jeff again and
right.
get some of your questions answered.
All right, let's do it. This is a nice question here. I believe, if I remember from the eons ago, this is a geometry question, I think.
That is.
Okay, good. And it says, what is the volume of this block? And let's see. The base, or one line, is 9 inches. And then the bottom looks to be 10 inches. And then it looks to be 3 inches high.
Yeah, I can
Calculate the volume of this.
take that one. I'm just trying to sketch this really quick because I didn't get a chance to copy it yet. Let's see. Let's see how this box looks.
You're the
All
best
right,
drawer on the
there we
show,
go.
that is for sure.
I try. So this box is 9 by 10 by 3. And I don't want to go too much into how this formula is derived, but when we talked about this before, or just in general about volume, kind of said that volume equals area of the base times the height. And I don't think there were dimensions on this, but I think it's important to talk about that. So I'm going to call this a box, 3 inches by 10 inches by 9 inches. So you could write different volume formulas for all these different shapes, or you can come up with one generic one that works based on any shape that has this kind of prism. When I say prism, I say that, think about like this kind of box, like this face right here. If you can imagine the face in the back, can't really see it, it would look exactly the same. So it's actually maintaining the exact same shape throughout. So when we do this, we're saying that this capital B here is the area of the base. So really, whenever you think about the shape of the base, I think it can be a little confusing sometimes. Not so much with a figure like this, because you could do it a couple different ways and be okay. But with other figures like trapezoidal prisms, where you generally think of a base as something that's like sitting on or supporting. So like if I looked at this calculator and I set it down, I would think of the base as this object. And it gets really tricky whenever you have triangular prisms and things like that, because a lot of times my students see that and think, oh, whatever's on the bottom is the base. But keep in mind, these are three-dimensional objects, and we don't live in like a totally flat space. This can be oriented a lot of ways. Like I could orient it this way, and now I've got a base that's a different shape. Or I could orient it this way, I have a base that's different shape. So what you typically want to do with these figures is think about like what is that main shape that gives this three-dimensional object its figure, in a sense. In this case, I'm going to say my first thought is it's really this rectangle. So the area of the base, well, I can rewrite this equation as the area of the base is length times width of a rectangle. And I'm going to kind of rush through this a little bit because we're running out of time. But I'm going to rewrite this then as volume equals length times width times height. And then all you're doing is kind of plugging in some values here. And we're going to say volume equals, if I look at this rectangle, I have a length of 9. And it has a width of 3 because this is 3, or this is 3 here, so this has to be 3. And then again, kind of the orientation, the height is 10. Keeping in mind, you could turn this and it would be more of what you're used to seeing. So volume equals 270. And we use this inches cubed. And really quickly, the reason why we do that, and an easy way to remember this is because when we're multiplying the units as well. So if I throw little inches, 9 inches times 3 inches times 10 inches, also multiplying the unit, we get 270 inches cubed. So hopefully that helps. I think from here we need to go back to the trivia question and get that answer.
All right, we do have an answer. This is exciting. So again, the question to repeat, what country has won 567 Nobel Prizes since 1901? And the answer is Sweden. That's right.
Ooh.
Sweden. Yeah, a little couple facts about Sweden. The pacemaker, ultrasound, safety match, astronomical lens, marine propeller, refrigerator, and computer mouse, all famous items that were invented in Sweden or by Swedes who weren't living in Sweden.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Sam, do you actually know, and I ask you because you're a science teacher, I feel like you would know more about Nobel. How many Nobel Prizes are awarded every year?
You know,
have
I
an
don't
idea?
actually know that. Because
The Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
And they're,
they give
else
the
is
prize
And
in
there
a
are
variety of
math
different.
prizes.
Right.
Why don't you guys
literature.
tell us some stuff about Nobel or Sweden, and I'll look that up.
Okay, well, I do know about Sweden that Swedish parents are entitled to 480 days of paid prenatal leave.
Wow.
And of those, 60 days are reserved for the father. And I'm just going to say that's possibly why there's so many Nobel Peace Prizes, because they are way
Right.
happier.
And the way they educate their children is much different, where it's more kind of discovering things and kind of playing around with things. And so it would make sense that they are kind of more creative when it comes to inventions.
That does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it looks like you can have any number. It was 12 in 2014, but it just depends how many
on-
people there are that deserve them that year.
Interesting.
Oh, so the deserving get them.
Right.
Makes sense. All right, well, we've got to say goodbye to you. That's it for this week, but we'll be back again next week with some interesting guests and science experiments and answering your questions, of course. So we'll see you then again on Tuesday and Wednesday live from 4:30 to 5:30. Thank you for joining us. Take care.